Hey, you guys. Hey, you guys. I'm having a bit of a congestion today, so I'm not really speaking as clearly as I have in the past in some ways. I want to touch a little bit today on something I've been thinking about a lot. We had something that came up that triggered this for me that I'm going to talk a little bit about, but I'm not going to talk too much about it because I really don't want to. I don't want to stir this up anymore. I'm not a person that likes all this drama. I know you probably think that's a big pile of BS and I'm lying. What about without a box of Kleenex? Well, there's that. That's a little bit different. And yes, I am sitting back and gonna see what happens with the Todd Chrisley allegations, the other allegations that are going to be filed here very shortly, and we'll see what happens. I probably will read through the legal documents when they come through. Today, I want to talk about a tendency I've seen in high demand organizations, like very fundamentalist religions, evangelicalism, different groups. Oh, hey, small town Jewel. I wanted to talk about these high demand organizations and the fact that they don't encourage their people to use critical thinking skills. Critical thinking skills seem to be one of those things that is a big no-no. I've experienced this firsthand myself. I talked about this before in some of my videos about my former church and some of the things that happened there, even this past church. A lot of times when you're in an organization that's high demand, and it could be any organization, it doesn't necessarily have to be a church, it can be other religions, it can be diet groups, it can be social groups, it can be all sorts of things. It can be places you're working where you have this very toxic culture that you don't have very much going on as far as critical thinking skills. Anytime you have a group that views everything as black or white and they want you to view everything in this world as black or white, it's a very dangerous thing, and you can find yourself going in some rather strange places and saying up is down and east is west and whatever, to say the opposite. Hey, Cheryl. And a lot of these groups, I think back about when the Simpsons, where they joined a cult, CULT, I should say, not even that. They joined, yeah, bougie water. They joined a high demand religious organization, and they couldn't get Homer on board. Homer just could not embrace the whole thing. Hey, Aaron. But what happened was the way they finally got to Homer was they started singing the Batman song. Na 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 na, Batman. But instead of Batman, they put leader, leader, leader. They got Homer to embrace it by doing that. However, it takes a lot of times these high demand organizations will figure out a way to pull you in, whether they have to go no 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 Batman or whatever. They'll figure out where your button is and they'll push it. And once they have you in there, and once you're hooked, and you're just wanting to stay with the group, you're not wanting to rock the boat. You love your dear friends there. You love everybody and everything, and you check your brain at the door so you don't have to think about the hard things, like things that disturb you. You just file those things away. And I know I've been there, done that. I did it for some years. It's just, I look back at that time and I think, how could I have ever done that? Because one of the things that I can definitely tell you about these organizations, people do just about anything to foster a sense of belonging, to foster a sense of community. I mean, I've even seen that in the true crime world, where people who are not involved in the least will insert themselves into all kinds of lawsuits, all kinds of crimes. Nat, I should say. People feel this weird need to be part of stories bigger than themselves. That can be good, that can be bad. Many churches use this for good, to foster community. Some of them use it for evil or for nefarious purposes. One law enforcement agent I know likes to call them crisis parasites. People that insert themselves. And that may be it. I've always said drama parasites. So now we've got crisis parasites too. And here's what I can tell you about the people on the inside of the group. They're not very happy. They may be towing the lines and engaging in this black and white thinking where there are no shades of gray. There's no room for anything but groupthink. And we all know how dangerous groupthink can get. They push groupthink. You're not allowed to think for yourself. You're not in any way encouraged. In fact, you could go read, I could name any number of fundamentalists or evangelicals or quiverful practitioners and show you on their websites, their Facebook, their Twitters, where they post all the time trying to shut down any type of dissension, any type of thought, any type of thought that is not their own personal theology and that extreme black and white thinking. Sometimes it goes into some really comical places. Sometimes it goes into some crazy places. And you end up with the kind of internet dramas that seem to happen around many very religious people. I had somebody yesterday that left a long comment about Jill Rodriguez on my YouTube, and that was all well and good. It's just this person basically said, Jill is a righteous woman, you better shut up about her. That's what her long comment boiled down to. But see, here's the thing, in those organizations, those type of groups with the black and white thinking, that's how they conduct themselves. Anything that is even slightly critical, that is not thinking about the party line, is considered to be a dangerous thing. It's considered to be all black, all right. Righteous woman. You are exactly right, Aaron. And the truth is, life is full of shades of gray. It really is. I mean, there's black and there's white, and then there's everything and everyone else in between. And I've always really gotten a kick out of the fact that a lot of these people that are preaching this very straight-jacketed, tight, crushing theology flip out the minute you say yes but, and it doesn't even have to be much of a yes but. You can point out some tiny little thing and they will fight you to the death for it. It was pointed out to me today that someone who has been someone that I have blocked in every way, shape, and form for over a year now, who has spoken piles of falsehoods about myself all over social media, but I've had her blocked. And I will continue to block her. I'm never going to mention her name here or anything else. Made some allegations today that I must address because it hits these black and white thinking. What do I mean by that? You know, I wrote for NLQ for almost 10 years. I covered the entire quiverful spectrum. I covered people I couldn't stand. I covered people that I thought weren't so bad. Heck, I even covered Sheila Ray Gregory some. And Sheila and I don't agree on everything, but I like Sheila. And Sheila gives me the freedom to think as I will think on things. Her and I have spoken. She doesn't require me to think exactly like her. I don't require her to think exactly like I do. And that's really where the good things happen, is where there can be disagreement and where there can be all these different things. But anybody who tries to make you line up with a group think, So this person posted that I had posted a video, October 2020, threatening physical violence on Ken Alexander. Lori Alexander of the Transformed Wife's husband. I had to go back in and take a look at my videos. She said it was a deleted video. I only deleted one video that month. I deleted a video from October the 31st that was 2 minutes of me going, ha, 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 laughing over the fact that Tati Westbrook had filed a defamation lawsuit against, without a box of Kleenex. When I said last month that I was sick and tired of even thinking about without a box of Kleenex. I took down a lot of my content on her because it felt kind of mean spirited. So that was the only thing. Well, today I put it right back up again because I want to show anybody who's complaining about it. Yeah, they're personal thoughts and opinions. Yes, and this is all personal thoughts and opinions. I never said anything of the sort. There was no video that was taken down. Heck, I'm going to say something will probably freak people out. I don't wish any of those people bad, evil things happen to them. I don't wish that they'll die or and I'm certainly not going to be the instrument to visit any punishment on anybody. I can't even walk. Huh, it's ridiculous. So Ken did PM my husband. It was kind of funny because he was trying to make me behave in this thing that he's told my husband to control me. My husband knows me well enough and knows my thoughts and everything, where he kind of laughed and told me, he said, deal with this guy. He's just being ridiculous. So as much as I don't like Ken, I don't like his theology, I don't like his black and white thinking at all, I would never wish anything bad on him. In fact, when he had, did they say Lyme disease, and was in the hospital, dying of what they said was, oh, what was that? Lyme disease. I actually posted in LQ that I wished him well. I wish him healing. Just because I don't agree with somebody's theology does not mean I want to see them dead, beat up, anything bad happen to them at all. Now, if something bad happens to them, it depends upon who it is. Say Larry Solomon fell into a salami slicer and had little Larry sliced off, I'd probably laugh over that. I'm just tacky enough to do that. But as far as deaths, anything like that, punishments, I don't say that stuff and I don't feel that stuff. I don't even feel that stuff against Lori. I quit talking about Lori Alexander because of her brain tumor. I felt it was too much like poking a sick badger with a sharp spoon to talk about her at all while she was dealing with her brain tumor. So I stopped talking about her in any way, shape, or form during that time. That's what was comical about Ken reaching out to my husband, because I had completely stopped talking about Lori in any way, shape, or form because of the brain tumor. And I don't want to see her die of brain tumor. If I could wave a magic wand and make anything happen for all of them, not even just them, even guys who make me disgusted like Larry Solomon, it would be this: for them to wake up and be able to think for themselves and see how this thing they were following is so toxic. This binary black and white thinking, this blaming and shaming theology is deadly. It does all sorts of things to people, it twists them up in knots. All you have to do is read through the backlog of any quiverful cultural enforcer to see how badly twisted up they get and how they pretend their happiness is happiness, their unhappiness is happiness. So many of them are unhappy. When you ignore the boy you like, it's going to make him like you more. Same theory with Lori. Yeah, you're right. I think that we just have to ignore her. And I pretty much have since I stopped writing for NLQ. I don't talk about Lori Alexander. I don't even think about her. If something comes up, and I used to have a Lori Alexander banned me group, which I'm still the owner of, but I have other moderators now. Why? I don't want that mess in my mind. I don't want that negativity. I don't want any part of that. I sometimes, once in a while, talk and answer somebody on there. But there's so much just toxic waste going on in the modern American fundamentalist evangelical churches that they've settled for this false happiness, this faux happiness, faux intellectualism, and locked out any other rational thought at all. Check your brains at the door. trying to remove them. Yep. I left the church after 16 years when the pastor and assistant pastor started pushing out anyone who disagreed. I tried meeting with the bishop in the area. Several other members joined me, trying to remove them. Cheryl, I've heard that story again and again and again and again and again. I've seen it so many times. Heck, I experienced it this past June, last month, when I had my third severe asthma attack because the church I was going to decided to prioritize a non-member bringing a emotional support animal to church, which isn't even something that's covered by the disability laws of this country or America. They showed me pretty clearly who they are. And I knew there was a lot of this black and white thinking going on, this magical thinking that they were the only really righteous and good ones in this world and they were controlling everything. They pushed me out. And at the same time, they tried to embrace my husband hard, which turned out to be totally the wrong thing. What they did not know is I had prevented him from leaving that church starting about February. He was unhappy after we got back to the church. Yeah, all pushed out by lies. That's exactly right, Cheryl. They like to push people out who don't line up exactly with them. And it's kind of crazy because if you look at Jesus, who did Jesus hang around with? He hung around with tax collectors, fishermen, hookers. I mean, people that the self-righteous people in church today in America and here would turn up their nose and just be, oh, heaven forfend. Oh my goodness, I'm fainting. They would push those people out. And that's really not at all what the message of Jesus was. Whether you do or do not believe in Jesus, if you read the Bible, it's pretty clear. Love everybody. Don't judge. Don't do a lot of stuff they like to do. I like to, and when I worked for an LQ, that was all I did was point out the theology that pretty much ignored Jesus and just added all this other stuff. I know that I pissed some people off because I had some certain pastors that went after me. One of them was Tim Bailey and Larry Solomon and the whole bunch. So I'm awake now. I'm fully awake. My mind is engaged. I can read and see the truth. I can see that so many of these people that scream how happy they are the most miserable people on earth. They want to make everyone else miserable. They want misery as their company. I have never threatened any of them with any violence whatsoever. Custody, yes, we got to talk about that. Because this happened in my old church too, my original Quiverful church. Theology controlled politics, and that's wrong too. There are actually a number of laws. If churches are get caught doing this, in the states, the IRS can revoke their 501c charitable status. The church I went to, basically what they did was they would have these voting guides that were printed out by the, what's the name of that ministry? Intercessors for America, Leesburg, Virginia. So not even very far from us. They would do voting guides. And it's sad because I used to read Intercessors for America's letters and some of the books they recommended. And I didn't find anything horribly offensive when I was still in that world. Now I probably would look at that now and it'd probably ring all kinds of, but they would tell you who to vote for. And our pastor would place those on the chairs and would tell you how to vote based on those guides. Such pressure was put on you to vote the way they wanted you to vote. And I've seen churches really double down on this in the time of Donald Trump. I thought it was bad when George W. Bush was part of one, because I saw our church especially really push hard on people to vote that way. And it was toxic, it was weird, it was wrong. No offense, but this is my problem with Protestants. Too many interpretations, and you never know if the pastor is even an educated theologian. Amy, exactly right. So many pastors are not educated theologians. A lot of them come out of these Bible colleges that don't have any kind of accreditation whatsoever. Nobody knows what the curriculum is. And even the big ones like Dallas Theological Seminar, I remember we had a guy come to NLQ that worked there that would post the most ignorant and hateful, racist, sexist things you've ever seen in the comments. And I would have to just clean him off the comments all the time. And he taught this, he taught at the place. And at that point, I had no idea that Dallas Theological Seminar taught such hateful things, but apparently they do. This guy is an example, and this is just my opinion. AJC, yeah, I've missed you too. When I got to the States, every time I tried to log on to do a video, I got this crazy message that would say, hey, you're not in your usual spot. Let's send you a code to your phone number and see if we can get you back online to do your videos. The only problem is they have my Costa Rican phone number, and I could not access anything on my Costa Rican phone while I was there, even trying to run it through the router at my kids. Nada, de nada, nothing. So I could not make a video at all. Amy, I may go back to the Catholic Church at some point. I sometimes go there here. Right now, I'm going to another church in the area that my husband likes. My beliefs are way different than they were when I went to the Quiverful Church, and they don't always line up with the things that are taught here. But for my husband, he loves church. Church is like, I'm going to say it's almost like a country club for him. He likes the social aspect. It's important to him. He gets cranky if he just has me and my introverted ways to talk to, because I'm kind of like, sometimes I'm like, don't bug me, I'm doing something. Or like when I came back this time and was freaking out because the house was dirty. Yeah, I tend to have quite the temper. And that's one thing I can tell you from having had a stroke before and having had this one. It changes your personality. It does make you a lot quicker to flip out. And it does for me. It always has. It did last time. It did this time, even though I didn't even know I'd had a stroke. So, and I have all these new meds I'm trying to get used to. So I've been less than nice. And yeah, so he has to have somebody to talk to who's not going to say, what is that? Why don't you clean that? Oh my gosh, I got to tell you guys a story about that. Cherry picking scriptures. Shaming the women. Yeah, that's a big thing. They like to, apparently, religion controls men to the point, many times, these fundamentalist type religions, that the men end up as useless kind of submen. I'm going to say betas, if you want to use the common parlance. Just these weak, wimpy, emotionally deprived men that aren't good for too much of anything. They don't work well. They get fired a lot. They don't bring in lots of money. You see a lot of that in fundamentalism. They'll work for themselves because it's godly, even if they're not making any money. And the only way they seem to be able to raise any sort of self-esteem for themselves is to put women down. So they will cherry pick scriptures and treat women as if they're subhuman, teach that all women are supposed to be this very submissive, over submission. I mean, you get guys like Larry Solomon. This is their thing. That's their entire theology wraps around the penis. I'm just going to say it, about how a wife has no ability to say no to any sexual activity. And there is, a woman has no opinions whatsoever that aren't the husband's. If the woman's allowed to vote, she votes for who the husband has picked. So many times women are treated this way. as the board president, I tried everything to stop it. A 3,000 member church has no business doing that. You are right. You are so right. Aaron, I think it's because a lot of those guys can't compete in the marketplace. They don't have skills. They don't have the kind of skills that would take them into good paying jobs. The ones that do have the good paying job skills don't have the emotional intelligence or the, how do I say this, or the social skills to navigate the politics of the office or anywhere else. They only know that somebody is pissing on their religion and not respecting their boundaries the way they want. They want everybody that they work with to feel, believe, and think exactly the same way as them. And they can't handle any type of diversity whatsoever. And so if there is diversity, it makes them flip out. They can't handle it. So that's why so many of them work for themselves. Never been back. Small Town Jewel, I have never been back to some of those places either because of that. And they have their own scheduled vigil churches, etc. Yeah, there's a lot of that goes on too. Yeah, and they can't take direction from a woman. That's another thing a lot of them can't. One thing I do know about quiverful evangelical churches and fundamentalist churches is there's falling outs all the time. There's all kinds of these just very stupid, pushy, shovey things over theology, and not even major points of theology, but very small, little tiny things, head coverings, for one. I saw a church split, our church split over head coverings. You know, if you feel convicted that the Lord wants you to wear a hair covering, wear it. But don't think you have to force everyone else in your church to do the exact same thing. Because when you start that nonsense, you really are going to be going where a support. JC, same. Yeah, well, it is what it is. It is what it is. I will say here, the churches here, the fundamental, what I call the evangelical ones that are not part of any one denomination, that have these splits and go back and forth, that I've heard about and seen here as well. Here's something I'm going to say. These churches that don't have a denomination, but they don't have state, federal, worldwide oversight, and they don't have a mission statement that everyone can understand, you are asking for trouble going to those places, because eventually somebody is going to come up, I just lost connection. Connection is unstable. So let me know if you don't see me anymore. Better watch his mouth in our new place. There are a lot more religious people here than anywhere we've lived. Yes, where you're living now has a lot of very, very religious people. Very much so. So he's going to have to, good. He's going to have to watch his back. I mean, it's insane. I could tell you a couple of Florida stories about people I know right now, and it's just crazy, some of it, what's happening there. But going back to that, with the denominations, there's safety in denominations. You know, I once read this book called Everything I Needed to Know I Learned from Star Trek. And there was a really, really good thing at the very beginning that I sometimes refer back to. I was talking about the other day with my husband. The Starship Enterprise. When they started Star Trek, the original Star Trek episodes, one of the things they would say is they were on a 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, seek out new civilizations, and boldly go where no man has gone before. That's a good mission statement. That's a 5-year mission statement. Organizations thrive when they have a clear mission statement, when everyone knows which way you're going, how you're going to get there, who's driving the bus, what you're going to eat when you get there. All the little details can be covered in the mission statement, even if it's done very simply. But if you don't have this shared vision, this shared direction, you keep going off in all these weird directions, and the church might get pulled in those weird directions. Amy, I'm the same way. Cass, yes, I would consider Hillsong evangelical, and I have some experience with Hillsong. I have been to their seminars where they teach worship and worship leaders, and I've seen enough of how they operate too to put them into this very toxic evangelical box, along with Sean, is it Fouch, and Bethel Redding. I would put them in that box as well. They're very toxic. I tell you some crazy horror stories. So many of these things. Anything that glorifies the people while pretending to glorify God is going to be. I know it happens at Lutheran churches too. Uh, oh my goodness, the burkas, yes. Aaron, that was always a problem for me. In fact, I have to laugh when I was with my kids. They live in suburban Maryland now. They live in Maryland, not far from DC. They both work in DC. And I had to laugh because near their house, very near their new house, there's this huge mosque. And I have nothing against Muslims and mosques and whatever. If you want to practice your religion and you're not suppressing other people, go for it. And you're not teaching hate, go for it. And judging all Muslims by the behavior of a few public ones we've seen, it would be like judging all of Christianity by the actions of Westover Baptists. So I try to keep an open mind with those things. Well, anyway, this this place was huge. I mean, it was like fabulous. It was like something out of Aladdin, because every time the kids would drive by, I'd be going, Prince Ali, fabulous, he, Alibaba. I'd start singing songs from Aladdin because this was like a picture of a more fabulous version of the city of Aladdin, because this was a huge mosque. And I got to see people going to and from a few times for their services as well. It was pretty interesting. There's a restaurant there that I want to try sometime just for the heck of it. But, Aaron, I bet you could. But here's my problem with Muslims, with some Indian sects, with so many different religions, including evangelical Christianity, is women seem to be viewed as less human than men, and their bodies as some sort of problem instead of what they are, our God-given bodies. We're told to cover every single thing up about our bodies. I kind of laughed about this because I keep getting ads from Modly. Modly is a swimwear company that sells very modest swimwear. The tops are way more modest than this Nautica top I'm wearing today. And I live in a place that's super hot. I wear shorts and sleeveless tees frequently, many times without underwear because it's so hot. The things that I and everybody else around here wears for every day are way more immodest than Modly. And guess what? We got low rape rates. We got low sexual assault rates. Nobody loses their mind and attacks anybody else because they see their butt cheeks flapping in the breeze. So it kind of puts a lie to the thing that women are totally responsible for men not lusting and committing crimes like that. The new Netflix show, My Unorthodox Life. Yes, I started watching that too. Interesting. I've met some highly educated progressive women who are not suppressed but favor the headdress. Cass, I'm going to say something about the headdress, okay? About all headdresses. What the Muslim women wear, the hijab, what some of the Christian women wear. They wear their little headscarf to cover their head. If you want to do that, hey, that's fine. But it's got to be your decision. It can't be something forced upon you by some male headship in the religion for me to respect it. I will say this, when you wear those things, you have a lot less bad hair days. So I can see the appeal to a woman, and a woman thinking that she is honoring God by doing that. And if it's coming from a place of, you want to honor something and you feel convicted in your heart you're supposed to do that, that's one thing. If you're doing this from a place of, well, I got to do this because my imam, my pastor, my whatever, my husband says I have to do this, that's a whole different thing. That's a whole different type of thing where that goes. And I have a problem with that. I have a problem with women being gatekeepers of sexuality. Men are not animals. Men can control themselves just as well as women can. And let me tell you something. These female cultural enforcers who like to say that women don't lust, don't know a thing. Women lust as much as men. There's just no physical, easily observable symptom. A Mennonite lady said her veil reminds her to always behave in public and be a good person. She explained it much better than that, but I like the way she looked at wearing it. Aaron, I used to know a lot of Mennonites. I used to live in a part of Virginia where we had quite a few Mennonite people, and the whole veiling thing, it was a big conversation. At my Quiverful church, they even started to do that, a certain sect, and they all broke off. Sorry, I just remembered my iPhone is real dead. And I understood the theology behind it. I was one time in the Mennonite store with a nice Mr. Yoder, and he handed me the pamphlet on veiling because he knew I always wore dresses. I had long hair. I stuck with the whole modesty thing. And I remember reading through that pamphlet and just going, oh no, we're not doing that. Defected. Oh, yeah. And it seems to be all over the world now. Well, all over the Western world. Let me put it that way. Let me rephrase that. Even here, in fact, I laughed when I got off the plane here the other day because the first thing I saw was a Mennonite girl with the headdress. She wasn't wearing the full veil. I've seen some of the other ones. She had on her dress with the little cape in the front and the cape in the back that fastens at the Aaron, did she do that? Did Jill Rodriguez actually do that? I suspect that she probably had to, if she wanted to fit in, dress more modestly next to the Amish. I wish I could go pick the Amish's brain there to what they think about the Rodriguezes because they've done some work for them now several times. And it kind of blows my mind. I haven't spent as much time around the Amish as I have the Mennonites, but I wonder what they would think about all the Instagram posts and all the things about how modest they are. Modest in all dress, even though there's a lot of times I'm looking at them and thinking, I thought the point of modesty was not to stand out in a distracting way. They sure don't. They sure fail in that regards because they do stand out. They stand out horribly, not in a good way. What many people in the religions do not get that are screaming modesty is that to the rest of us, they don't look modest at all. They look like they pridefully stand out, even if they're wearing a jean skirt. If I never see another blue jean skirt in the rest of my life, it'll be too soon. I had one. And that was something that was commonly worn where I was. If you went to the thrift store, yes. I'm sure, Aaron, that she's clothing those little girls at the thrift store. It sure looks like it many times. Castee, that was my experience too. That was my experience being there as well. You cover up. It's an introvert's dream. Nobody looks at you. You veil your head. Nobody looks at you. No man hits on you. And you know that veiling does not keep them any safer than us running around in short sleeves. It just does not. Men are going to look. Men are going to, they're going to have those thoughts. And You could be dressed in a sackcloth from head to toe. And if they could see your ankle is going to be the thing they're going to obsess over. All it does, I think, is drives a hypersexuality. Aaron, in parts of the Arab world, yes, it is. You can go to jail. You can. A lot of that world, they put up with a certain amount of Westerners showing up with things showing without flipping out. But a lot of times you will be told to cover up head to toe, to wear the veil, wear the dress, wear the robe. And quite frankly, you can go on eBay and other sites, and they have the most beautiful Arab dresses. I actually have one that's all embroidered in the front, and a couple of the things that they sell, and they're beautiful. But being told to cover that much, I can't imagine that in this heat. I can't imagine in that heat, because it's, yeah, you're right. Sharia law is no joke. Sorry, small town Jewel. I sang that stupid song the entire week I was there. Every time we drove past this giant mosque, I was singing all the Robin Williams parts in in Aladdin. They believe in no gray area. You're exactly right about that. There's no gray area in high demand religions. There's just not any. There's black, there's white. Either you are with the program or you're some kind of reprobate sinner who is going straight to hell on Lil Nas's stripper pole. I don't know. That was the craziest video, and I had to laugh at that. So many people were completely outraged by the video. So many Christians I knew were just losing their mind over it. And I just kind of laughed, because every couple of years there's a new artist that they all say is leading people down, straight down the stripper pole to hell. I remember when Marilyn Manson showed up, how many people were freaking out about that. That was sort of towards the end of my time in Quiverful. I know, going back to my mother's time, that they thought that about Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley was corrupting the youth. So that's one thing that's always the same too, is corrupting the youth via music and videos, especially in the video age. It's crazy to think that our lives are shaped by the place we were born. It's a simple fact of life, but it truly shapes our lives. Aaron, you're right about that. You know, I was born in South Louisiana. I had relatives and have lived in New Orleans myself. I've got relatives all over the place down there. I was lucky in some ways to be born down there, because a couple different things. Number one, I got here and I didn't experience the thing that all gringos experience when they get here: bug bites. I had already had all the same bug bites and infections as a child in South Louisiana. And here we are in this tropical climate again. And I'm just like, this is like my childhood in Louisiana, where we didn't have air conditioning. So there's that. And the other thing is being raised there, seeing drag queens when I was a small child, being exposed to Mardi Gras and all of that. There are so many things that regular society fights against, and I'm kind of like, why is this even a thing? Why is this a problem? And even in my years in my quiverful church, I would try to explain to people how them saying certain things was just utterly ridiculous. It was not going to lead to the things. Does anybody remember when Michelle Duggar made all those transphobic robocalls? She did that claiming that if transsexuals were allowed to use the bathrooms in Arkansas of their choice, of whatever they identified with, that children were gonna be molested, that those guys were, those men and women were child molesters. Now, look, here we are, 7, 8 years down the pike, and look what her son has been charged with. I hardly think that came from sharing a restroom with a transsexual. The biggest threat was under her own roof. You are so right, Aaron. That was the irony from this for me, because she was making such a big deal about this. And it turns out that Josh is the predator, is a predator. And who knew? Who expected that? Um, Only anybody that saw the way he was going and his different offenses through the years could even think that might even be a possibility. Josh is the golden child in that family. He is not going to be blamed for anything. I am curious to see how this is going to play out. His court case apparently goes to court in November. I'm going to be watching rapaciously here from Costa Rica to see how it goes, because I'm very curious. I think I know what legal strategy they're going to choose just by some of the things that his lawyers have requested already. Amanda, I don't think there's any taking the spotlight off of him now with the show canceled and everything else. They would have to do something pretty spectacular for that to happen, like octuplets or something. And I don't see that happening. I just don't see anything they could come up with that will ever distract the public from the spectacle that is Josh. And I'm sure I'm going to get some people coming on here saying the things they say every single time I talk about Josh. They're going to say, "You're picking on a righteous family. Um, let's take your worst things you've ever done and put them on public display like Josh's." Sweetheart, the worst things I've ever done, the legal worst things I've ever done, don't even hold a candle. I had a pile of parking tickets when I worked downtown that I missed a few of them, and they piled up and they came and tried to take me to court over it. But that's my big scandal. Most people in this world don't have sex scandals. They don't have huge legal scandals. Their scandals are small and parochial. My scandals are small and parochial. They're not anything even in the same stratosphere. He was DED did. So I don't know if KJ is allowed to go to the trial or not. I'm thinking she might not be. Here's the thing. She keeps talking about her best friend Amy Duggar King. She's talked about going to see her best friend Amy. So here's what I suspect will happen. We know she wants to go to the trial. You know she's talked about it a few times. She may not be allowed in because of the shenanigans she pulled during the two hearings. And they caught her at it, and a lot of people complained about it. I'm thinking it's likely she may not be allowed to be in the trial, to go watch, be an observer of the press. But we know she's friends with cousin Amy. And what I think will happen is she'll go visit Amy during that time, and Amy will go to the trial and feed her the inside information. I would lay money on that. Unless they manage to convince Amy how KJ is not her best friend, which I don't see that happening right now. I know Amy is acting like the moment that the show is finished, that her non-disclosure agreement with the Duggars is done. I don't see that happening either. I just don't think that Jim Bob would make such a silly mistake. I think he would probably have that NDA in place for life, but I could be wrong. I could easily be wrong on this. That's just my opinion, because everything that Jim Bob Baker has done, Jim Bob Duggar has done through the years, shows a level of control that I only see in quiverful families, that I have seen before in quiverful families, that level of control. Um, she's saying that he died. That was a rumor. That was a rumor going on a couple of weeks ago. So I don't know. It would not surprise me because Josh is going to be facing for the first time in his life a serious situation that he cannot manipulate his way out of and that daddy won't buy him out of. He's facing real life consequences, which he should have been facing real consequences his entire life. You know, if they're using the Pearl method and they're beating those kids, they're not really giving them real life consequences. That's one thing I liked about the Love and Logic books. Oh, thank you, Jackie. I'm building up my yarn fund again because I'm going in September to the States and I'll be using that for yarn, for more yarn. I started buying oodles of it when I was in the States. I've got a pile now. So I think with Josh, I think that he may kill himself for all we know. He's never faced real consequences for any action he's ever had. This looks like the end of the world for him. He's going to federal pound me in the ass jail, more than likely, because we know the feds have a really high conviction rate that a lot of organizations don't have. So I'm expecting him to. Yes, you would agree, Aaron. Oh, so I am going to show you my yarn haul. I just have to, I'm still, believe it or not, I'm still unpacking. I have 4 loads of laundry I got to fold and put away. I was going to tell you earlier, I came back and I was in the kitchen and I was looking out and said, what the hell happened there? It was the stove, the broiler pan, the thing you pull out, was covered with some kind of weird schmutz, brown. It was just splashed. And I got this tale about how my husband bought ice cream and put it on the stove and forgot about it, and it went everywhere. So I'm still cleaning stuff like that up. I put all my yarn aside except for my one skein of, this one is turquoise and gray. It's cotton. I'm making some lovely washcloths with this. I love cotton yarn. I love the spa cloths. I tossed washcloths a long time ago, get the cotton yarn and make spa cloths. Well, I'm gonna have to go watch that Small Town Jewel because now you've got me. Yeah, you've got me intrigued, Aaron. The problem with ordering from anybody but Amazon for me is that they're not going to be able to get it past customs. Amazon is excellent at that. As much as I don't like the way they run their business and how they treat their employees, you could order things there, get it shipped here, and you pay the aduana, the customs fees, right up front. And you know what they'll be before you even check out. I do buy yarn sometimes that way when I get short for time. Or I just do like I've done the last couple times. I just bring a suitcase back with yarn. I do that too. Amanda, I don't think he got it in the oven, though I will have to look now that you said that. It was on the outside, and I'm wanting to replace the whole stove because the handles popped off. One of the burners won't light. It's old. It's at least 14, 15 years old. The stove doesn't work worth a damn. So it's getting time there. It's getting time to replace. I really want to remodel the entire kitchen. Oh, I have enough to last me through September. In fact, I bought some absolutely gorgeous yarn that is variegated, that's got burgundies, purples, oranges, golds, and I'm gonna make a curtain for my kitchen, just a little valance. And I'm excited about it because it matches, it coordinates well with the gold that's already there, the golden orange, the rust colored paint. And when I have the kitchen repainted in a neutral, it'll go well then too. So I'm excited. I've got projects that I am going to be working on. I have plenty to last me through September. I think right now the ice cream is just on the bottom drawer of the broiler, but I got to go clean it up. So tomorrow, hopefully, I will do a stream and show you my yarn because I am excited about my yarn. I got a lot of stuff going on. One of the things that was recommended to me is I take up macrame and other things that aren't crochet to try and work on my hands because I don't always have the best use of this hand. And I did my first macrame project this week. My daughter and I each bought $2 macrame kits at Walmart. They were on final markdown. And I think I did okay, but it's not the macrame I used to do back in the 70s. So I actually have a lot of crafts I'm working on right now. I'm about to take up painting again, so I'm excited. Life is looking up. I just have to be not quite so bitchy to my poor husband. That's the only thing I can say that's a drag when you have a stroke. You're exhausted afterwards. They're giving you all these medicines that are messing with you and giving you all these problems. And you may not be the kindest to the people around you who are the closest to you. I really have to bite my tongue some days when that stuff goes on. And I'm just now starting to feel even slightly human after my trip to the States, which my trip to the States was a sheer search for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. That's what I did every day, all day. I did some shopping at Costco and various places, but not as much shopping as one would do normally when I'd go on my trips. It was mostly, where the hell is the vaccine? And on that, I leave you. I hope if you can get vaccinated that you do. I was reading this morning in the Times of Israel, I think it was. They are saying that being vaccinated only protects you 16% against the Delta, the Brazil, and the Colombia variants. I don't know how true I believe that is. I'm going to have to take some look at it. I did finally get the vaccine, small town Jewel. I think that's why I've been sleeping like a mofo for 3-4 days, because I got the vaccine, but I got no other side effects. I got a little bit of a headache that first day. And as I told my daughter, it's like, is this a sinus headache or is this a COVID vaccine headache? There's no way to tell. Okay, you guys, I love you guys. I'm going to go ahead and go. And 16% is better than nothing. So I'm still going to keep watching all this stuff. CDC just announced they want everybody to return to masking indoors. I think that's probably wise until they figure out what they're doing. So I would recommend doing that. It's better than catching COVID, and masking works. Bye.